We're in the section of the course still in which we're talking about epistemology, the theory of knowledge, justified belief, and how we get these things. And we're going to wrap up that section of the course today. We've been focusing on beliefs concerning the external world, the world outside of ourselves, the world that's not immediately apparent to us in perception. And we looked last time at Hume, who was very concerned about how we came by beliefs concerning what he called unobserved matters of fact. And he said, gosh, I'm not sure that you're justified in believing anything that's an unobserved matter of fact, anything that you don't immediately perceive. After all, you come by your beliefs about these things by way of inductive reasoning. What you think is something like this. I see all these regularities in the things that have been observed, and I suppose that those regularities carry over to the things that haven't been observed. But, says Hume, what justification do you have for making that assumption? That assumption underlies all of your thoughts concerning unobserved matters of fact, but you have no real justification for making that assumption. I mean, the best you can do is appeal to something circular, appeal to something like, well, in the past, it's always worked for us to suppose that regularities carried over, regularities in unobserved things carried over into observed things, so in the future we will do well by adopting that reasoning too. But clearly we are, in trying to justify our practice in this way, we're appealing to the very assumption that we're trying to justify, namely the assumption that regularities in the past will carry over into the future. Regularities in observed things will carry over into unobserved things. Okay. This time we're going to look at a second kind of worry concerning this inductive reasoning. It doesn't have to do with just the justification for thinking that some regularities in unobserved things carry over into observed things. It has to do with what justification we have for distinguishing the regularities that we think carry over from regularities that we think won't carry over. Last time I mentioned the case of the president, and I said clearly it wouldn't be very good reasoning for me to think that all US presidents have been male, all the observed US presidents have been male, so almost certainly the unobserved ones, the ones we haven't yet seen, the future presidents are all going to be male too. That seems like it's bad reasoning. Why? Well, Goodman, in the reading that you had for today, pointed out a way in which we might think this was bad reasoning. So he said, the basic inference pattern is not just all as yet observed A's are B's, therefore all A's are B's. The reasoning rather goes like this. All as yet observed A's are B's. We have no further evidence either way. Therefore, probably all A's are B's. That's the basic form of what he called inductive reasoning. And clearly, by thinking about it that way, you can see why it isn't very good for me to be saying, well, because all the past presidents have been male, the future ones will be male too, because I have lots of other evidence concerning who's likely to be a future president, beyond just the fact that all the past ones have been male. Still, even thinking about things the way that Goodman thinks about it, there still is a kind of a puzzle. And the puzzle is this. When is it the case that observations of the form, all the A's that we've seen so far have been B's, when do they render it good to think that probably all A's are B's? When do observations confirm a theory? So an observation confirms a theory when, in virtue of making that observation, I should be a little bit more confident that the theory is true, the general claim is true. So a particular observation that this A is a B confirms the general theory that all A's are B's when a reasonable person, in virtue of making the particular observation, should become more confident in the general theory. When is that true? It's a very subtle and difficult business, and I'm just going to give you a flavor today of how subtle and difficult it is. So we're going to focus on two problems today. The first problem goes by the name of the Raven's paradox, and the second goes by the way of the paradox of Grue. First, the Raven's paradox. Here's what seems like a clear, good case of an observation confirming a theory. My theory is this, that all ravens are black. It's a general claim about ravens. Seems fair enough. One way I might try to go about seeing if that seems right would be to go and check the ravens in the world. I go and I check a whole bunch of ravens, and I see that all the ravens I find are black. I can't find any that aren't black. And so after a while, as I accumulate observations concerning black ravens, I see there's one, there's another one, there's another black raven, there's another black raven, that's a raven, oh, it's black, and so forth. I become increasingly confident that all ravens are black. As I should. That seems fine. But now notice that the claim that all ravens are black is equivalent to the claim that all non-black things, all things that aren't black, are non-ravens, are things that aren't ravens. Why is that? That's because, well, to say that all ravens are black is just to say there aren't any non-black things that aren't ravens. Every non-black thing is not a raven. Those two claims are equivalent in the sense that, another way to put it, if the one is true, the other is true, and vice versa. But while it seems like it's some evidence for all ravens being black that I see lots of black ravens, it doesn't seem like evidence for all non-black things being not ravens that I find a bunch of non-black things and I notice that they're not ravens. Let's make this real. Let me find a non-black thing. Here it is. I looked around the studio and I came by a non-black thing. I observe now, it's a roll of sellotape. It's not a raven. Does that confirm the hypothesis that all ravens are black? Well, surely it doesn't, right? I shouldn't be any more confident, one might think, in the hypothesis that all ravens are black in virtue of just reaching out, finding a non-black thing, and noticing that it wasn't a raven. So the puzzle is, why is it that an observation concerning a particular raven, namely that raven is black, confirms the hypothesis that all ravens are black, while the observation concerning a particular non-black thing, namely this non-black thing is not a raven, it's a piece of sellotape, that doesn't confirm the hypothesis that all ravens are black. I want you to have a little think about this and have a chance to answer some questions about it and maybe formulate some ideas in your head, and we'll come back to a possible solution in the next video.